Join us as we talk about the Paradice House, a historic home in Old Town Pocatello, where Pocatello Paranormal Research did an investigation the first part of November. We apologize for some of the audio issues in this podcast. We tried a new microphone and it's not working so well. Hi, this is Colleen with Speaking of Spirits, and we are going to talk a little bit about, we had an investigation last night at the Paradice House in Pocatello, and we had some great things happen to us. It's a very active location. So, I forgot to introduce everybody. Gina and Susie and Kate. And Kate she wasn't at the investigation with us, so she kind of wanted to pick our brain a little bit about it.
I have so many questions.
Yeah, let's go for it.
So, first of all, if I understood this correctly, Colleen, you usually take in the calls and filter out, is this a place we go to?
Yeah.
Right? So, tell me about that. How did you get the call? What were they saying?
Well, yeah, so probably for every 20 calls, I might be interested in one location. And it's not, I do pick and choose because automatically, if there are children involved, we try to go. Yeah. Sometimes they don't follow through with us, and that's not our fault. We'll do everything we can, right. And then they put the skids on it, and that's fine for whatever their reasoning is. I think sometimes people think that if we go in, it's going to make the house more active, and that's not the case. We always try to quiet things down when we leave and try to stay on top of that scenario with them. But so this came in, I was emailed by someone I'm not going to give his name out, but I was emailed by somebody who's in charge of the property right now. And he told me a little bit about it. And then I knew that Tim on our team had grown up right next to it. So I immediately sent Tim the picture and I said, Tim, do you know this house? What do you think? And he goes, oh, yeah. And he's like, that, because he told me all about it already. And he's like, oh, yeah. Are we going to get in? I was pretty excited. So I told him that we're going to get into the house. So he was stoked. And I said, don't tell me anything that went on there because I don't want to know. Usually I handle the calls and I know the information and I try not to tell the team the information. These gals and Mark, before we even drive up, they get things pegged, but, they may not know some of the nuances in the facility that I'll know. And I try not to tell them because I want them to not be swayed right. One way or the other by stuff. Like they may know something happens, but they don't know specifically where the homeowner may have told me that. But so we decided instead of setting up, and it's weird because we have so much gear, but we've been having problems with our hard drives. And so we decided to go light on this one. And I enjoyed it a lot more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's awesome. So Gina, when you pulled up to the house, what did you feel?
Well, it was funny. I actually had drove in that area because we didn't have an address. I just knew it was located. Am I able to say where it's located approximately?
Yeah.
It was located near the Sandrod House, which is very famous in Pocatello. So after I picked my granddaughters up from Head Start, which is right over in that neighborhood, I went and I drove by. And the only thing we'd been told was that it was next to. Well, there is a house next to. But I drove down and I'm like, I think it's that I think it's the one. So I actually messaged her. I said, is it the house next to the stand rod or the one directly across the street? It was the one directly across the street. And that was what I felt. I guess I felt chaotic energy would be the number one thing that I would say. It definitely felt active and chaotic to me.
Susie, when you walked in, what did you feel?
Well, I started with the picture that Colleen originally sent us because I was drawn to the upper left window immediately. And I got the little pictures in my head of an older gentleman, with the top hat and a high black collar and mustache and stuff, walking out to his horseless carriage, and very much pride in that, going back and forth, where it was supposed to be. And then I just did feel that there was a lot of chaotic type energy with it. And it was busy. So I was excited. I didn't drive by because I was like, I'm going to wait. Because I'm not from Pocatello.
I knew I was
didn't know where it
coming
was.
after it started because I had to be later. But I just wanted to make sure I didn't pull up to the wrong house in the dark or,
Right.
because you don't always necessarily park right out the
in
house.
front. Yeah.
And when I first walked in, we were talking to the gentleman and just kind of going through rooms, and I was immediately drawn to two pieces of furniture in one particular room. And that was really interesting because we could kind of see it moving slightly. I don't know if you want me to say everything.
Go ahead, because we live streamed it. So.
Okay. So in the back room, there was a rocking chair. And it was just moving ever so slightly. And I was very, very drawn to that. Whether it was any part of the original owners or because they collected antiques, or if it had the energy of the previous owner that didn't live there. And then there was also a child's stool in the dining room that was a little creepy. And then, so that's where I started off with it. I didn't like the stool and that somebody was hanging out in that chair. So
you said you went in with light gear. What was your process, or what was the method that you guys chose?
So normally we have several hard drives with like home security systems. And unfortunately, ever since we did the Yellowstone Hotel, we've had nothing but problems with our hard drives. So when you have a security system, like in a convenience store or anything like that, you can go in and you can review things and it's still recording, right? And we had, through that investigation, reviewed stuff. It was recording just fine. 3 different systems in that place because it's so big. And so we knew it was all recording. It was fine. When we walked out the door the next morning, I'm all excited because I had the day off. I'm like, I'm going to download all the hard drives and get them to the team. It had factory reset every hard drive. Every single one. Now the data may still be there. And I called a data recovery company and they said it was like a minimum $500 to pull it. And I'm like, I can't do that. We don't charge anything for our investigations. I'm not going to spend $1,500 to recover the data. Yeah. But so
and is there a guarantee that there would even have been?
There's not a guarantee. It's just their time. So we have had those hard drives on a few investigations since then, and we've had nothing but problems with them. We went to Gate City Coffee and we had problems with them there. So I'm like, I don't know what to do with them. They do appear like they're working fine but every time we're on an investigation now, we can't trust them. So now I'm like, we're using these and we live stream or we're recording and I don't know what to do. I've spent a lot of money on these systems and I can't use them now. So we went in with just our handheld gear. I told everybody, have your cell phones charged before, or like a handheld video cam. Have your cell phones charged before we walk in the door. Everybody's responsible for filming and voice recording. Bring your voice recorders, whatever, like that, handheld gear. But we're not setting up our cameras because I can't trust the hard drives now. So that's what we did. We went in and we did a little bit of a walkthrough, and then we started investigating.
So, what was your experience in the house?
It was a torn thing between two things. I have severe allergies, so I was kind of struggling because it had been flooded. So I had some mold issues. There were, that kind of thing going on. But Susie and I like pinpointed like almost the exact same time some things we were completely able to validate. And it was neat. I had a piece of jewelry in this huge, like the big cabinet door kind of jewelry boxes that either hang or stand, and you can put what, 20, 50. There
Yeah.
was at least 50 necklaces on there. One moving, none of the others moving. So it wasn't like it got bumped, because if you bump it, there would
All
be
of them are
multiple
gonna move.
pieces, at least a few pieces moving. Saw some very strange things. It was funny. I love dolls. No one else on the team. Yeah, I know. I had some other friends today on my post. They're like, burn them, just take them out in the yard and burn them. I'm like, I love dolls. So there were some really cool dolls picking up. I don't know if I have rose colored glasses when it comes to the dolls, but I love the dolls. The other part that was a little challenging was the chaotic clutter.
It was very
There
cluttered.
was a lot of clutter, and it was kind of dirty.
It was
And
very dirty.
lots of smells
Yep.
that kind of, between your physical self trying to not be bothered by it versus the spiritual, psychic, those kind of things trying to tap
We
into
were
it.
getting both kind of smells, is what she was talking about. Like,
Yeah.
like all three of us were in the master bedroom, and all three of us at different times were smelling the same thing. We were smelling feces. We were smelling sick, like a cancer type of illness, like decay and rot. Just in the
It was
basic same area,
Bad.
but
I had to leave.
different times.
Finally, had to leave the room. I'm like, I can't. Well, it was so overwhelming to me. I had to leave the room. Yeah, it was bad. So yeah, and that's nothing on,
No.
we don't know what the situation was with
Right.
the people that lived
Don't
there. It just was it was overwhelming. Some of it was overwhelming.
It just is what it is, because her experience was happening and ours wasn't at the same time. But then when she went, she could feel it. And then I went and it was the same thing. But like, and it was in the same general area, and mine didn't. I was like, oh, I don't smell anything really. And then I started touching items, personal items. And then it just like a wave. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I've gotten to see you use dowsing rods. I think I saw that you were using them too at this location.
Mhm.
What did you find with that?
Yeah, so we decided to sit in the sunroom, which is a beautiful room on the south side of the house. And as soon as I sat down, I could we had a few energies come in and step in front, but then there was somebody, it was a guest who was working with us, who was a contractor who stayed in the house for a while they're trying to renovate it. There was some flood damage, so they're trying to work on it. And I had the sense that there was a young girl that walked into the room, and I looked at you and I'm like, it's like young, like in teenager young. She's like, yeah. And I said, yeah. And then I looked at the guest and I said, and with her color hair, and she had real red hair, and I was like, yeah.
And it was funny, she wore it up that night. Just like,
Yeah, she did. And then I started talking with her on the dowsing rods. And as I'm talking with her on the dowsing rods, I think you looked up.
I said, I said, Ed, are you from the Stanrod house? And immediately her rods just crossed.
Yeah, so
was like,
you looked
oh,
up
okay,
her
there we go.
information and found out that it was
Cammy.
Stanrod, who died at 16.
16.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Barely 16.
So she apparently just like, somebody wants to talk, and came into the house and chatted with us for a little while, and then she was gone.
So every question, like we would find, I found her name and I just waited and I said, is your name Cammy? And immediately her rods would cross.
And the strange thing, I was picking up on a strong M, but I'm like, it doesn't seem like it's like Mary or Martha, but I'm picking up on a very strong M, and it was Cammy.
Cammy.
Yeah.
2 M's.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting how that kind of stuff works out on investigations. A lot of times we're validated on the investigation.
Yeah. Well, the staircase was very cool.
Yeah.
So the staircase kind of goes up, has a little landing, goes up a couple stairs, and then goes up to the top. So there was this kind of pillar thing with a decorative something on it. And we get to that point, and I was the first one, and I turn and I'm like, and I take the other couple steps. She gets to that spot and she's like, and it's like,
and we both look at each other and
yeah,
we're like,
and I'm
"Whoa,
like,
what's up with
I'm
their
having,
hearts?"
I'm having some chest things. And we
Uh-huh.
went up 6 stairs maybe
Yep.
at that point. So it wasn't like we just hiked up to the top of the Empire State Building and then find out that that was a spot where one of the people that had lived there had passed.
Mhm.
That, and we were like, we did the high five and the
Yep,
whole bit.
we're
It was
like,
like, yep.
I didn't have the chest stuff, but what I felt was like my legs were like elephant legs. I just so heavy was all I could do. The first time
Well,
getting up those
when
stairs,
you have
all
heart
I could
failure,
Yep.
you get that.
Well,
Your
that
legs
and the
do.
fact
An
that I was
elderly
paralyzed. So
and-
my legs are always funky anyways, but man, the first time up that staircase, and it didn't happen the next few times, but that first time was like, wow, they felt like they were 500 pounds
I think
apiece.
she was pulling in on her too.
Probably.
So it was nuts. But anyway, we get up, we had the bedroom that you keyed in on. We went up there first, and man, our equipment was going nuts.
Lit
And
up.
yeah. So it Andy thought it was maybe something to do with the old knob and tube wiring, but the equipment would also turn off.
Yeah.
So if you have something like a fear cage effect, you're going to have your equipment's going to hit consistently everywhere in the room. That didn't happen. It was going on and off. It was responsive to our questions.
I remember when I asked, "Can you turn it off?" And it shut it off, and then I asked the question, and it lit it back up again.
So
yeah, there were several times that it was absolute immediate response.
yes,
It seemed like they is super excited to talk, and that's why it was just like, "Well, we calm down. We're here. Just take your time and respond to us," because it was just so rapid.
And then we had a lot of equipment initially when we walked down into the basement. Our equipment went off. We set it on the table. It started going off, and then like the man I think that was down there didn't want to talk to us. Same thing. We go out into the garage, the workshop, goes nuts, and then gone.
Quiet.
The equipment went quiet. I think we chased him around the house. I don't think he necessarily wanted us to be there.
But I think towards the end of the investigation, because I took her into the rocking chair room at the very last, because we had avoided that room the whole time because that's the first room we went into. As soon as we went into it again, there was an overwhelming smell of like there was cigar smoke, there was old man cologne. It was like a wall. And then both her and I like took turns sitting in it. We both just felt very stoic. Like all of a sudden, yeah, and like we don't have to talk to you. We don't have to answer your questions. Just very stoic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's the sense of the man that I was getting the whole time, just like.
We don't do any research on a property before we walk in the door. We just don't. Some of us happen to know some information like Tim did, but he didn't tell us until these ladies had the breathing issues. And he went, oh yeah, by the way, when I lived across the street, a lady was found dead at the bottom of the stairs from a heart attack. So he held that information because he knows better than to try to key us in on.
Well, because it can subliminally plant seeds.
It can.
Yeah.
So he waited, and then they said something. He goes, "Oh yeah, by the way." So Tim is, he was very good about that. We try not to do. If I field the calls, sometimes Andy fields the calls, but we try not to take any of the information and give it on. I don't purposely look up the history of something until after the investigation. Now, because of this facility or this building, this so well-known house, it's a very well-known house, that I will go to the Historic Society. And we had a couple of names that came up.
Yeah, he also, was it the caretaker or realtor? The gentleman?
The gentleman.
Yeah.
Anyway, he was talking about like the older original guy, the layer of energy that I was getting of the original owner was a mercantile owner. And that's why that really resonated with me, with the wealth and the status and things like that.
The way he was dressed.
And the way he was dressed, like it was about the era, the 1925 era.
Yeah.
So
So a lot of times, guessing when you guys go in, you don't just assume there's activity and you try and dispel it, right? Was there anything that you guys were able to maybe thought was something paranormal and you were like, no? Or did you guys take into consideration the mold in the house from the flooding, how that affects people? How was your guys' process on that for this investigation?
well, definitely when the refrigerator kicked on, that was refrigerator.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we try to go in, or at least the team goes in. I hear what somebody tells me, but I try to go in there with a clean slate.
Mm-hmm.
It will affect sometimes if we're using our hard drives and static cameras where we're going to put things, because if somebody says they're seeing activity at the end of the hall, I need a camera.
Right.
So if I set up a camera, then the team already knows there must be something going on, but they may not know. They're not going to know exactly. But we try to go in and not necessarily discredit anything anybody's saying, but go in with kind of a blank slate and see what we get. I think that there's a whole lot of people out there who have a lot of gifts, and they have no idea they have a lot of gifts. And so they just think they're crazy, or they want us to come in and maybe so their husbands or wives don't think they're crazy, so they ask us to come in.
Yeah. One of the things was one of the doors opening, and she went over and it just had a harder time latching. She 2 or 3 times.
I had to push the bottom of it with my foot at the very bottom, and then it would finally latch. So
yeah, because we were standing there talking, we turn around and the door goes.
Yeah, that was completely nah, that's not paranormal. Because I just don't know how to shut a door properly.
Yeah.
Is there anything about the experience that you guys want to share that you haven't yet?
I do.
Okay,
One thing,
go ahead.
just really quick. I just want whoever is interested in the house to know that nothing is bad there,
Right.
nothing is creepy there. The energy that, I don't know, Gina and I were talking about it, the energy of that home, it just wants to be loved. It misses the care and the attention that it got, and it just wants to be loved. It's not going to be anything negative for anyone if they get
I
it.
think that's what from investigations.
Yeah.
It's negative, so
Yeah.
I'm sure that's reassuring.
Well, welcome to Pocatello.
Yeah.
I would say 60% of areas have some activity.
Yeah.
That's just part of our area.
sure.
But one of the, I don't know if it's cool. I'm weird, but a little bottle of hair.
Oh God, that was creepy. I'm sorry.
And I was the only one, I think, that noticed it.
Yeah.
And
I didn't even know. Well, I
was-
was so overwhelmed with that.
Yeah, it
room
was
that
the stinky
Yeah,
room
the
that we
stinky
all
room.
picked up on, really pungent smells that other people standing right next to us did not
they didn't
smell.
smell.
So
I'm like, I gotta leave. I'm
yeah, she was getting green. She
Yeah.
was
You're gonna
literally
get here.
physically changing. But where the bed sat, there was a wall. And then there was a door to a bathroom and a wall. And that was where the jewelry was swinging, was right there. So I'm standing there and there's this weird picture. I didn't look that close at the picture, because as I looked at the picture, I noticed the bottle. But it's like squiggly lines. And I don't know if it was stitched or if it was painted. But in the picture frame was just squiggly lines. It was like green and gold. It was weird. But there was a little, about 1-inch bottle with white hair. I don't know if it was
some
hair.
I think it was hair. It looked like hair to me, but it could have been somebody's grandmother or something, and they wanted to keep it, and that's fine. But I think that combined with everything going on in that room, I was like, oh God, I can't.
Yeah, and it had the curly ribbon, pink curly ribbon around the top of the bottle, and tied, and it hung over that picture of the squiggles. And she's like, do you think it could be a child? And I said, well, most children don't have longer hair that's white.
White.
And I said, I took the picture because I wanted to go home and look closer. I didn't want to touch it and mess with it. I mean, I kind of looked a little bit at it, but that was strange. That was really
leaning
strange.
Towards pet hair, for sure.
No, it was human hair.
Really?
Oh, it was human hair.
It was human?
It was definitely.
Did you see my enlarged picture?
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I do know it was
Oh, yeah.
pretty
Okay.
Yeah, because it's hairs. It's not fur.
It's hair. It's hair.
So when I was in there, and nobody answered me, but I had a feeling of a generational, like a mother taking care of a daughter, or a daughter taking care of a mother thing, like a 2-generational thing, and maybe that was a piece of grandma's.
That's what I'm thinking.
Grandma's hair.
Because I'm a weirdo and I have several people's hair.
Okay.
That it
So
was just
maybe-
combined with
Yeah.
everything else
Yeah.
going on in that house. That kind of creeped me out a little bit. But there's a doll in the basement he looked like a marionette. He was the only doll in my life that has never freaked me out. I liked that doll. He was very cool. I liked him. He was very cool. But so I just want to address chaos. So we have gone and we've done investigations at a lot of homes where there's hoarding situations, And this was one.
Yeah. The
Now,
clutters.
in the
Way too
basement,
much.
there was over 40 of those, what they call action packers. They're the enormous, like Costco tubs with the yellow lids. They're huge. That contents of the house is being put in, cataloged and put in inventory to go to an auction facility, right? It didn't make a dent in this house.
No.
Didn't make a dent.
I
And
didn't know that
Oh, I
was
bet.
what was in it. I wouldn't have thought it had
No.
been touched.
Uh-huh.
No, you would not have thought this house had been touched. And that, like, they have worked so hard to catalog everything. They haven't touched anything,
Because
really.
beautiful antiques, like
Oh, the
you fell in
antiques
love
are-
with some
oh
windows, but
my gosh,
leaded
there's
glass and
Everything
the old silver-backed mirrors and beveled edges. And
beautiful. Everything is beautiful. But, so chaos creates a toll on you mentally, spiritually. And hoarding situations, I don't care what it is. I don't care what kind of hoarding it is. And this was a very exquisite hoarding.
Yes.
Mhm.
Like, as in,
yeah, it wasn't empty pizza boxes and
No.
litter
This
boxes.
was
no,
right.
it was
really high dollar hoarding.
High
Like some
end.
of, like really, really, really expensive stuff. I don't want to,
Remington.
yeah, I just don't
Oh.
want to say a lot of what
No.
was in there because I don't want to,
That's
Yeah.
true.
yeah. But, by the time this airs, it'll be over, you
They'll
know.
have it
But-
auctioned.
Yeah, there's going to be an auction of all this stuff, or yeah. I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's crap or $10,000 statues and artwork or $1 million statues and artwork. Hoarding creates chaos, and chaos is negative energy. And although there was nothing terrible about the house and I never felt anything negative, the fact that it was hoarded made it negative.
It's just too much.
It's too much. It's just like everywhere you look, literally every surface had something on it. Even
Yeah.
I filmed in one of the small bathroom off the kitchen. Even above the door had
Yep.
stuff stuck like everywhere. And then we were shown pictures of how it sold to this person before, and it was exquisite. It's exquisite in detail by itself. It doesn't need to be hoarded.
Yeah.
But this becomes kind of a chronic mental thing when hoarding is a mental issue. And I don't care if you are collecting antiques. If it overtakes your space, it's a problem. And we deal a lot in people call us into homes and they've been hoarded. And it's like, well, clear out 70% of the stuff and then call us back because A, we can't work safely in a hoard. And B, it can create health issues for us. And C, it's lending to the chaos of your life.
Yeah.
Way
Well,
too
and
much
the thing
energy.
is, too, if you continue to buy antiques, you don't know what energy you're pulling into the house with the antiques because
Yep.
people, their energy and or
Right.
their essence attaches to things.
Yeah.
And so you have that going on as well.
So you feel like the house will be better once stuff gets
Yes.
demolished,
Oh,
is
the
that
house
right?
is amazing.
Which I
But
think
yeah.
is kind of funny because people think upset the ghost. Like, what if you
No.
take their stuff?
I think
Like, this is awesome
the
to hear.
spirits that are in that house love that place so much that I think they're very upset with
They
what's
all
happened to
did.
it. It was purposely flooded by people who distraught people who wanted a piece of the action of the house.
Yeah.
So they purposely flooded it. So these exquisite plaster ceilings with beautiful artwork on, or not art, but just the art in the
The
plaster.
beveled corner.
It has to be completely torn out and redone.
That's bad.
Yeah,
And
so
flooring.
the house is, you can feel the energy of the building trying to heal itself. It's trying to, like, want somebody in there who will love it.
Yes.
It's going to be a steal financially based on this house. It's
Yes.
a historic house, but it's also going to take a tremendous amount of money to restore now.
Well, the crazy thing was, too, is in the stinky bedroom, the floors had beveled up. I mean,
Yeah,
it was dangerous even walking because instead of the board sitting like this, they were like this. There would be a
because
whole
of the water
line.
damage. And that's the
like that.
second story.
Yeah.
There was so much flooding in this house that every floor, every ceiling has to be replaced now. And it's like, how can you do this to this piece of art, this history sitting here, you know?
Yeah.
But anyway, I hope that somebody gets it and loves it and can revamp it. I don't think any of the energy that's in this home will be upset with that.
No.
they'll be happy with it.
That's
Mhm.
amazing.
Yeah.
So cool. Sounds like it was a great night.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah, I've asked that once the house gets cleared out, we can go back in, see what other energy we can find. I think the antiques were
Yeah.
exquisite. They really were, and I can't believe they weren't ruined and all of that because
Yeah.
I looked at the feet.
I did
Yeah.
too.
Like
There
the
was some that had
bases.
some like ding
Some-
damage, but not like flood damage.
No,
Not like
the water just
expansion.
poured down into the basement. So the antiques themselves are still exquisite.
Yeah.
And it's like, so some of those are going to be kept to stage the house, but I hope to come back in and feel it, sigh a little bit, take that big breath and say, okay, maybe somebody's going to love us again. She did, and I have to say, the lady who owns it does love it.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it came
Well, she also had been sick for a long time.
very long time. So
some of that may have been
yeah,
just not able to care of it and keep it up.
right,
Mhm.
yeah. But that nonstop. Let's buy anything and everything we can and fill every piece of wall space.
Because as you noted during the live stream, it wasn't just antiques. There was new things brought in.
No, and there's no rhyme or
Kind of
reason to anything that was brought in
Yeah.
there. It was like a metal sculpture of horses that is so like 2000 Western with
Old
Shays
Victorian stuff.
a chase lounge from
Yeah,
the
Victorian.
Victorian age. It's like what's happening here?
It was
It was-
really cool.
It was every time you turned around, you saw something new.
Yeah, the 1920s sleek dog statue on the hearth of that one fireplace. That
Hey, I missed
totally
that.
like the
Yeah, that
flapper.
was cute.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much in there that it would even be fun just to go back just to look at it again because you didn't get to look at everything.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So,
yeah, we were
but
trying
it
to
was fun,
concentrate on
and
that.
what's nice about our team is that we have it down to such a science. We've done this for so long that when we walk in the door, I mean, bragging rights, I guess. I don't know. I don't want to sound, but we nail it, and we nail it fast, and we don't have to be there for 6 hours or 12 hours. We can walk in the door, we can determine who's here, what's going on, what their names are, and move on. And not, we want to stay, we'd stay, but it's
I think it was like 3 hours last night. It was really fast.
Yeah.
3.5. Yeah, because I was there about 3. I got there just right around
Because we had
5:30.
a little bit of activity, and then we had that lull just before sunset, and then just a little bit more, and then it just calmed down. Like
everything was calm.
Like we told you what we wanted to. Now,
but I want you guys. Well, I don't know if this video is going to be up before the live stream is off, but I was watching some of our live stream today, and I didn't realize when you live stream, there's no way to download that video. I'm like, oh, so now I got to figure out how to get the video. And while we were live streaming, there's whispering going on. So, yeah,
check it out.
yeah,
for sure.
definitely, yeah.
One of the things on my post, she said a lot of times when those devices would go off, like especially when we're in the sunroom, the camera would go fuzzy and then it would come back on.
Yeah, I didn't. I was just getting to look at that today, and then I got distracted with something else. And I had to stop the feed. But yeah,
Just out of focus.
Yeah, she said it was like static. And why?
and Andy was live streaming.
Andy, there was 2. I don't know if it was your camera or something.
No, it was Rhiannon and Andy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it was really cool though.
Yeah.
But I just, I love it when we can get into these historic spots. So it's fun.
Well, the nice thing too, like you said, not one of us felt anything with malevolence,
Nope.
nothing negative. It wasn't like the dishes were being thrown across the room and that happens. It's quite rare, but it's nice to be able to go in and say, just because something's haunted
Right.
doesn't mean it's bad.
Nope.
Doesn't mean something's trying to
These
hurt
were
you
dead
or
Uncle
chase you out.
Freds. These are people who had an attachment to the house.
Yeah.
They might have worked in it or owned it, but they loved the house.
Loved it. Yeah.
So, I mean, their heart and soul is there because they want to be. They're not trapped. They want to be there. Even Miss Stanrod, who came over and visited with us, she's not trapped.
No, because she
over.
came across
Yeah.
the
She
street.
came across the street
think
and said
we-
hi.
I think we picked her up when we were out on the
Possibly.
deck, and I was like, "We have to go inside. You have to go
That's
inside."
interesting.
And we're like,
You
"Let's go
said
sit in the
Emma, right?
sunroom."
Emma,
Tammy.
Tammy.
Sorry, Cammy. Cammy came over to us on the Yellowstone too, because her father was an investor of the Yellowstone Hotel, and so we kept getting her spirit there, a young girl's spirit there, and then Tim, I think, might have been doing. I don't remember, but I think Tim was going, "Oh, that must be so and so Stanrod, his daughter." And I just, it's been a couple of years now. I forgot all about it because I don't.
Your
keep this-
EL name? Her
Mhm.
first name's Elvira.
Yeah.
Oh, that's it. So
And
she
it-
kept getting
So
EL.
maybe she was in there earlier when I kept hearing the EL.
Yeah. Or you were just
The L.
picking up on her big time,
Mhm.
yeah. So she's making her way around town there going, "Hey, Pocatello Paranormal right here."
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
social butterfly.
She is.
She's like, found you guys again.
Yeah, yeah. Pretty cool. So, yeah. So anyway, if you're yeah, that's what these investigations are all about. It's not all spooky, dark. It's making contact and communicating with them, and 99.9% of the time it's a human who's passed and they get excited to talk because they
Somebody
can't.
can
Somebody
acknowledge
can
them.
acknowledge them.
Yeah. And a lot of times the really negative places has to do with the activity of the people who live there.
Yes.
And I don't feel like this house has ever had anything negative in it.
No,
It's just
no.
been a loving,
No, it was very-
loving, lovely house. I was kind of disappointed we didn't get activity in the dining room, because when I walked into that dining room, I'm like, man, the dinner parties they have had here.
Mm-hmm.
The wine that was flowing and the talk and the conversation, because with me, it's all about food and friends. And I just know that this dining room has seen some great dinner parties, but we didn't get any activity in it. And it's
It
just
just
the way it goes.
felt welcoming. And
Yeah.
then that living room where we sat just felt like a safe space.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the two spots that were just dead calm to me.
Mm-hmm.
The living,
Where we
The
sat
big-
with the big fireplace.
the big, yeah, I never really spent much time in there.
And that's actually where Rianne,
Mhm.
she said that that's the only place she felt safe in the home. And that's where she slept.
So Rhiannon is one of the contractors who's been helping renovate some of the damage from the flooding, and she stayed there for a few weeks. It was too much.
Yeah.
It was a lot. She said they would hear that rocking chair just boom, 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 all night long.
Which was nice that I told her I could see it moving. And she's like, yeah, we hear it and I've seen it move.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I'm like,
Thank you.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
that
yeah.
experience.
Yeah, she got $1 for
She also has a lot of gifts. It sounds like her daughter has a
Yep.
lot of gifts. So
Yep.
it's to be able to work with us and then have some of that validation of, okay, I'm not crazy. That rocking chair is rocking, right? Yeah.
Helps validate me too. And
Yeah.
she's like, yeah.
Yes. On to the next one. Thanks for joining us.
You've been listening to Speaking of Spirits, powered by Pocatello Paranormal Research in Pocatello, Idaho. Thank you for joining us today. We're glad you could be here. If you're enjoying the podcast, please do us a favor and go to whatever platform you are listening to the podcast on and give us a review. We prefer the 5-star reviews. This helps us know how we're doing, and it helps others to find the podcast. Thank you for joining us, and we hope to see you on our next podcast.